is working for Magnus Carlsen.
Yeah, that was the best start you could possibly imagine. And now Alireza with the black pieces. Look at this, opening advantage for Magnus. He gives, I think in bullet chess, having double isolated pawns is the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, well, I mean, even in regular games, double isolated pawns are not everyone's favorite. But in bullet chess especially, they are things that you wish you could just, like, literally give away, right? Because you'd rather have the open lines, the open files and diagonals in bullet, give you some tactics. So I agree. Magnus, much better in game 2. You called it. Firouzja started out with a 3-0 lead earlier this week. If Magnus reverses that script, you could have Carlsen Nakamura in a final.
I mean, he's just cruising right now. This knight is going to land on d5 in the near future, like right now. Rookie won first, okay? I don't know if it matters so much. But he brings his knight. Don't take the bishop, because knight f6 check, the queen would still protect the bishop on c6. Magnus, he drops the c2 pawn, though, and that gives Alireza some new life.
Yeah, and he's got the bishop pair. Now one is off the board, but still, this is much closer to equal. Firouzja also playing faster this game, still down on the clock, but not nearly the deficit it was in game 1.
Oh gosh.
Although, as I say that, it's going the other way. Firouzja shaking his head. And again, not calling anyone out in any way, but I am calling the momentum out. Magnus has already won a match today. He's looking fresh, feeling fresh in his home environment. Firouzja looks a little tired, just going to be honest, right? He doesn't look as fresh as he did earlier in the week. So we'll see if he can shake off whatever the fogs are, where he's facing a 3-0 deficit.
Maybe he needs Fabi to show up and tell him he's looking fresh, because some people are the recipient of that comment. Others, they never get it. But for Firouzja, it doesn't matter what we say, it matters what he does. And here he is, the white pieces, and then he's worse once again. Look at Black's army in the center.
So good. you nailed it on that, by the way. So, by the way, Fabi is looking fresh. I just want to say that again. All right. Yeah, the pawn's in the center. Pressure on the king. You always say bullet, king safety, even more relevant, right? Because you don't have the time to work yourself out of a bind. That's an important trade there for Firouzja to get some of the tactics out of the way. But look at this. Magnus just rolling, still up on the clock again by 4 seconds. This is a different Magnus Carlsen. And we know Hikaru Nakamura is watching. What are we going to have here if Magnus moves on to the final?
I mean, you saw with the arrows I just drew, there's at some point going to be an attack on the diagonal going for queen h2 mate, like right now. He goes queen e5.
Queen e5 right now?
But he allowed the queen trade. That was an inaccuracy from Magnus.
For sure. That's a huge moment, and this might be a huge save. Firouzja needs to stop the bleeding. You don't want to fall down 3-0. Magnus wasn't able to recover from that earlier. He needs to hold this game.
Yeah, but Magnus is slightly ahead of the clock, so he should use it as a weapon. And honestly, I think Magnus, what he should do is avoid losing. That sounds like, duh, you never want to lose. But you do not want to give Alireza that confidence. So he's locked the position up, and he's going for a win.
Oh my gosh. Look at the pawns. Look at the king. Magnus Carlsen wants the 3-0 start that Firouzja gave him earlier this week, returning the favor. Look at this. And he's also, again, he's still...
Look at Firouzja, he cut the king off.
Yeah, that was brilliant with the rook.
I'm looking at the time.
But it's coming down to time.
Oh my gosh. It is blunder, apparently, but not much time for either player.
There is no time. Magnus on a king run wants to flag him. But look at Firouzja, flexing the better time scramble skills.
Danya match is in the chat. What's up, Danya? Saying that Magnus' form is 100 times today what it was yesterday. But Firouzja just showed off the mouse speed, and that's the annoying thing. When someone has a rook and you just have a bishop, bishops can't deliver checks when the king is on the opposite color. The rooks can just pester you across the board, and the king was cut off, so limited movement for Magnus' pieces, and Alireza better with black in this game.
Yeah, I love it. And it's a really instructive point for bullet. The idea that the rook is just an easier piece to play with there than the bishop. The bishop was constantly worried about blundering, right? Moving to the wrong square. The rook was in a dominant spot, which allowed Firouzja to pre-move his way back into a time advantage. So, interesting stuff. All right. Magnus still has a game lead, but Firouzja seems to have found it a little bit.
I can read between the lines here when you're saying this game is not the most interesting bullet game we've seen.
You can hear that in my voice, just like my voice goes higher when I'm insecure. Oh, he blundered! Oh, he blundered the queen! Back, blundered the fourth. Look at the bomb, the music. We obviously are going to ask Magnus what he's listening to, no matter how he finishes on the day.
That was actually a potential match-changing blunder because
Yeah.
Alireza was up a pawn. He was better. There was no risk in the position except he fell into a knight fork. If that happens in bullet chess, watch out for the knights.
Note that Magnus didn't walk into the fork on e2 there with that nice king h2 move, very smart, flexing the rook's dominance over the knight, and a take a 2-0 lead. Firouzja doesn't waste any time on the clock, gets right back at it.
Yeah, 3-1 in Magnus's favor right now, 2-point spread as you mentioned, and so we see it's now Hikaru Khan time. And Alireza, he's a proponent of the Hikaru Khan, and this is just a weird opening. This knight on c6 came from g8. Like, how do you explain that to somebody?
Sorry, I love that comment from Hikaru's right. What would be spooky is if Magnus said he wasn't listening to any music. Well, anyway, that would be awesome. By the way, the chat did say Magnus Carlsen is the favorite here, 50%, 46%. Thanks for voting, chat. We'll see if you're right.
What's right is this position for black. Like, oh, what a tactic! That knight could be captured in two ways, but the knight was pinned on the diagonal, and then when you capture the queen, look at all of black's army, and white has a limited one.
By the way, look at e5. What a strong move to flex the center, knowing that you can't take that pawn without opening up lines for the rook, especially in bullet. You don't want your king to come under fire. So Magnus, as Don just said, his form is fire today.
Oh, look at this h4 move. Where's the queen going? f6 is next. You couldn't play f6 because the queen was in touch with g6. Now, queen into f2, queen to 1.
Firouzja just missed that. You saw his response. He didn't even see queen f2, and he loses the knight, and he's feeling the pain right now.
I'm sorry, Alireza, I didn't see that either, but Magnus did, and that's all that's important because Magnus is currently out to a 3-point lead. This is a complete role reversal of their first match.
Yeah, we will ask Magnus to share his playlist. He'll do that at some point. We'll see if he's willing. All right, yeah, Magnus has completely turned this around in terms of how he played earlier this week. Firouzja still has time if he can. We know what he's capable of. Here he goes. Tricks here for black. Watch out for queen h4. Uh-oh, queen h4.
So black has two minor pieces for a rook and a pawn, but black has this knight entrenched on e3 that's not going anywhere unless you trade off, and the next knight might be able to replace it. But Magnus is fighting well, but Alireza quicker on the clock.
Yeah. But this is the kind of game Firouzja needed here. This is a turnaround. He's up on the clock, he's better on the board. This is probably the best game we've seen him play so far. We'll see if he can convert it.
Better. I mean, don't fall for any tactics. These moves for black have all been good. The knight's wheeling into e3. And this is just great play for Alireza.
Up a piece. 20 minutes on the clock. Everyone take a breath. I expect this one to be close. Collective breath. Breathe into your diaphragm because that sends a message from your brain that tells your body it's okay to relax. I've learned that.
Oh, wait. Your brain work. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, I had to. I'm sorry.
That tells your brain to relax, which I need to do often for my brain to remind it to keep working.
I feel bad now.
All right.
I've got to be honest. I feel bad.
I feel great about this. I love the role reversal here. You're hosting, you're roasting, you're doing it all. I love it.
Did you just go full Walt Clyde Frazier on me?
No, hey. Still got a few tricks in the bag. All right, well, Firouzja's up a piece, but Magnus flexing that he's got a 3-game lead. He's going to get as much time off the clock as he can. Firouzja, again, winning and up seconds. I don't expect this one to go any other direction but a Firouzja win. Yep. And hosting and roasting for the boys.